right now, these are the big box stores. This is Target. This is Meijer. This is Sam's Club. This is an active industry. It's Millicon, and this is CastFab, which is also an active industry.
What kind of industries are those two?
So it's a
Manufacturing. What do they create? This, I have no clue what they create.
ATM machine.
ATM machines. Okay.
And I think to the south, I believe someone had mentioned something to do with plastics.
Part of this in here has to do with plastics, and then all of this below there is all residential
The
areas.
other building there, the big, gigantic
Crossroads.
church.
Yes.
And that basically this whole piece here is essentially currently an asphalt parking lot. We have an aerial up here, so there's a lot of
Do you
parking.
have that on this slide?
Yes.
Yeah, later.
It's later because
We can bring
it's
it
where
up.
we talk about it down here.
All right.
So, okay. So, and we'll also talk about this pedestrian access a little bit later. So phase 2, we extend over into this Millicon site. Yes, we have a nice large image on this side. Should I point over here?
Yeah, so phase 1 ends sort of here, and we're looking at phase 2 extending beyond, seeing the potential of that Millicon factory being available potentially in the future. And the density is a little bit lighter. The darkest gauge highest density is the middle density is our lightest density. And the reason it's a little lighter is you see this being sort of the core of it. And the lighter starts to go a little bit more to the other side of the tracks. We'll see in later phases trying to connect this through. So hopefully it's a fairly dense, but it's residential. It's a little bit lighter use. So the lower density is starting to tie those together.
So our phase 3, as you can see, barge up on the screen over there.
So then we bring it to the south here as this industry potentially become available, and there's a little bit lighter use as well, lay it here, and then try to create more connections, pedestrian connections across.
What does the purple arrow represent? I understand the desire to create the connection. What do you mean? Are you bridging over something that's at grade level? Is the railroad suppressed at that point?
It's essentially at grade level, and looking at trying to do.
So the rail is actually suppressed at that point?
No, the rail is at grade.
Okay.
It's at the same level essentially.
Okay, so you would be crossing the tracks?
Yeah, it is pretty light use. We only see it as being pedestrian crossing, not for vehicular use. Because occasionally there will be some cars kind of still sitting there, so some could be blocked, but it is a pretty light used rail. And basically the desire is to try to create some on-grade crossing. We don't like the idea of going up and over. People aren't going to do that anyways, really. When we visit the site ourselves, we just cross right over them. It is an obstacle, but at the same time going up and around is almost like a huge maneuver just to get across. And it at least also creates visual connections too, because we align the street grids up with the ones below.
I guess all I wonder then is, how is purple arrow number 1 and number 2 different from the zone between them? Because the streets still line up and it's still an at-grade connection. What are you doing at the places where you mark the purple arrows to indicate that that's a place that you're
It's not designed. We didn't have enough time to completely design it. We have ideas, and we'll show some images later about possibly either an at-grade crossing or an over-the-top crossing. But it is a very lightly used rail, so an at-grade crossing could be appropriate. But they're not fully designed. Mostly, we just wanted to indicate that there should be some kind of connection here to flow Oakley up into the site.
Now, could you talk a little bit about your conception of the rails? Is this based on the discussions going on in the city, or what you thought that your studio should generate as a proposal? Is this, where did your railroad conception? Frank, you may...
The streetcar?
Yeah, the streetcar, yes. Is that based on the mayor's agenda or the discussions that has been going on? How did you come up with the green, red, and all the railroad lines?
The light rail lines that you see here is the current proposal for light rail.
Okay.
So we did not create these lines here. We went off an existing plan. And then we saw that Madison and Oakley do not have any access. Well, they have to drive or they have to take the bus. And so there used to be a streetcar that ran along Madison Road. And we thought, what better way to connect it through mass transit than to perhaps add a streetcar. Our site, though, is not dependent on the streetcar. It will work just as well with bus mass transit as what it does with streetcar.
We just feel that it can help encourage people getting out and about and interacting with other people and sort of community to get out and see people, more interaction along the street. And it does come across, we had a guy from the city talk about the streetcar proposal over the Rhine area and how, and he kept relating to Portland and economic development that occurred after having the streetcar come through. Because it is, as opposed to a bus line, it is more permanent. And so people will sort of build around that permanence. And the other aspect too, we try to integrate some green space throughout. So like by putting green space here to serve our new area here, but also open people and also serving some buffers there along the freeway, and offsetting some of our main spaces such as civic uses, some of our historic structures as well. And this represents space for sort of finishing out the site basically, and taking over the middle Crown building that was here, and then extending across all the big box retail stores, sort of so we can start to break down the site more. The lots there, it's just huge and vast. It's not going to relate to really, it doesn't relate at all to sort of the urban setting. It is more of a traditional suburban model that is built here.
I apologize, I didn't study carefully enough when you had your color-coded number zone. So now what I look at is a darker zone around the middle, and then the lighter zones, and then the much lighter zone. So basically I can read three different dominant areas. One is a centerpiece, another is a wrapper, and the third in your later phases sits over closer to the foot. Can you just tell me what the concept of that is by helping me understand what are the rise conditions, the physical density of those areas? Because clearly you've thought about it as a collective. I didn't study the captions to know it, so now I need to hear it from you.
Okay, yeah. The darkest blue is our most dense, and you see that sort of creating the center.
So those are the possible four-story buildings?
Yeah, and so
Okay.
it creates a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 4. And they also can be directly adjacent, or you can have some space between. And so that you see is the most active area and the most high dense. And so we see that there are 4 and the center there. And then we do start to wrap it into lighter, so it starts to sort of fade out and start to relate to a little bit lower density here across the tracks. So that's also why we have it lighter on this side back here. So the connection.
So,
So here, zone T5 is the darkest blue, and what it allows is a 2-story minimum building, and then it allows for a maximum of 4 stories, which we've mentioned. It also allows you to build directly to the sidewalk, so it creates kind of this downtown, right on the street neighborhood feel. You can also set back your building, say you want to put a street cafe there. So you can set back your building up to 12 feet, create some street lights, put some cafe tables there. Zone T4 is less dense.
Yeah, it's in the middle, and this one allows minimum of 1, a maximum of 3, and the setbacks are a little bit more larger. It does have a minimum setback of 6 feet, and also a requirement of 50% landscaping, so it starts to sort of beautify the streetscape, if you will. You can still pave if you want to sort of almost essentially claim that space for your own private use, but it does relate to the public realm. And you can, and then go up to 20 feet away, but there still is a requirement of landscaping. You'll have more landscaping, but your setback is bigger, still 50%.
And you've highlighted Oakley Boulevard as a main corridor through the denser part of the neighborhood, is that correct? With the intention in mind that becomes a sort of main corridor of the area?
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, I think about a project like J.J. Pugh's Kiefer in Rotterdam, which has exactly the opposite motif. In other words, it has 4-story or taller urban housing buildings on an edge, and then lower 2-story buildings in the center. So I'm just curious, if you take an opposite model, tell me the virtues of this in your project in contrast to something like that.